playing then?
I've been playing, well, I kind of want to talk about the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, but not the entire trilogy, just the first game of the three, because it's the only one that I've beaten so far. I haven't actually touched the other two yet, but I imagine I will over the next few weeks. And it's a game I actually beat relatively recently on PS1, but only like a few years ago, maybe probably within the last 5 years, I would say. So it's the first Spyro game, and yeah, like it has a bit of a cult following kind of, and like people were excited for like the remix and stuff. I was never entirely sure. Like I kind of enjoyed my time with the PS1 version, but like the visual update and stuff for like the Switch and like PS4, Xbox versions and stuff, like I was never really sure with like the direction they took the graphics. Like it is obviously quite a significant upgrade over those like 32-bit polygons and whatnot. But back then, like I felt like that game had a bit of a charm or something, and like the angle they went with the remake, I was never entirely sure of it. But having like picked it up recently on sale, like actually it looks decent enough. Like it's not like terrible to look at or anything. Like a lot of people really like the visuals and stuff. But like gameplay wise, obviously it sticks very much to the original game. It's very similar. And it kind of starts off at like these sorts of games. I'm never really in it for like the story or anything. Like I think it's like I think the way it's kind of presented is like there's sort of like the main villain, like the guy called Nasty Nork, and I think he's watching TV in some sort of like interview with some like dragons round whatever the overall place is called, like, and I think one of them makes some sort of remark about how great everything is or something, and how they didn't like Nasty Nork or something, and then all of a sudden he just turns all the dragons into stone, into these statues, like dotted all around the island. So then obviously you as Spyro have to sort of go around and rescue all the dragons and pick up gems and stuff along the way to like unlock new levels and worlds as you progress. And the way it is presented, it's very sort of like, I would say, like child friendly, sort of like almost too child friendly. Like you'd look at like a Nintendo game like Mario or whatever, and like it obviously is very much like aimed at like everyone and stuff. I feel like Spyro sort of falls more on the almost like a childish sort of, like almost too childish in the way it's presented, but like it's not that important really when you get into like the gameplay and stuff. So there's like, I think it's about 6 worlds actually, and they're all kind of divided up into like 4 or 5 levels in each one. But each hub area, which has like all the levels sort of spaced around, they're like gates you walk through to go into like each level. The worlds themselves are actually basically like a level as well, where you have a certain amount of gems to collect and like dragons to find, and none of the levels really deviate away from like the standard structure of just like getting these dragons, which are all like they're very visible. You don't have to like go hunting into every wee nook and cranny to go and find these dragons. Like they are like spaced out, and like once you release a dragon, the wee area that they're standing on, so basically it just becomes like a checkpoint in that level for when you die. Collecting the gems is the thing that really sort of like makes the levels a wee bit more interesting, because the game is really more about exploration rather than actually like proper platforming. It's you're kind of like finding spaces in the level, and you'll maybe like see a wee cluster of gems sitting on a shelf away up, or not a shelf, like a platform away up in a sort of like what seemed like an unreachable place, but you maybe have to find an area in the level where you'll see a way to actually access this other platform to get those gems. So the sort of like the enjoyment comes from really like finding those areas in the level that will allow you to collect everything. And it's the sort of game that I actually don't think there'd be that much fun in playing just to go from like start to finish and like collecting the bare minimum of stuff really to finish. It's sort of like getting those levels done completely 100% is what sort of drives you through, because to be quite honest, like it's not that special of a game actually. Like when you've grown up with like Mario and stuff, and like all those like platform challenges and stuff, and all these amazing games, like if you're growing up with the PlayStation and you haven't played Mario Run before, and this was probably one of your better 3D platformers on the PlayStation, I would say. But even then, it doesn't come near to what we've maybe become accustomed to on Nintendo platforms over the years. So there aren't really that many like platforming challenges in the game. Like that's a sort of detriment against it. You are just basically collecting those gems, and like Spyro has his like movesets that you can jump, and then when you're up in there, like you can glide over to like platforms in the distance and stuff. And you've got a button as well, like it's the X button on the Switch, which like you can stop yourself mid glide just so you can land on a platform, like if you're gonna overshoot it or something. He's got a roll attack, well not an attack, but like you can like do a dodge roll on like the left and right shoulder buttons, and I never found one single use for that throughout the entire game. Like I never used it. The only time I ever used it was like in the loading screens, you can basically just like move Spyro about a wee bit and like breathe fire and like make him rotate and stuff. But like there's never seemed to be any use for it in the game. I'm not sure if that will come into play in like the second or third games, but definitely not in the first one. So yeah, like I say, you can breathe fire as well, and on the Y button, like Spyro does a charge, and then like the camera is on the right stick, which wasn't available in the original PlayStation version. Like that was the like L2 and R2, I think, was what rotated the camera. And on the Switch, you can actually like and like sort of like Zelda style, you can just like press the left trigger, and it brings the camera right behind Spyro. So you've got all those moves there, but like all the enemies in each level basically boil down to being defeated either by a charge attack or just like breathing fire. Like, and you'll see like a variety of different like enemies as you like traverse all the worlds, and some of them are quite big and like they've all got different designs and stuff, but ultimately they all boil down to just like if they're maybe like wearing like a metallic armor or something, it's like, oh, I know I can't breathe fire on it to defeat it, I just have to charge those, and most of them are just taken down by like one single hit. Like there's nothing really like there's no real strategy or having to work things out. I mean, there are occasions where like you might come against sort of a wee trickier sort of things, but nothing major throughout the entire game. And that's even with the bosses, like they're not particularly memorable. Like the levels are really like kind of just like maybe chase after the boss, dodge a few things, and like give them one hit, and then they maybe go into a different section of the level and you do the same again. There isn't really that much fun in actually defeating the enemies, and like even with like getting the gems and stuff, I know like I mentioned earlier about the fun of exploring the levels to like find those areas where you need to get to the gems, but like there'll be gems and there'll be some of them are just sitting on the ground, and then there'll be other ones like in these wee boxes, and like it's almost like there's no point in them being in the boxes, because like you just charge the box and then they open up, or there's other boxes, oh you can't charge that but you can just breathe fire on and it does it, or there's other ones where like you'll breathe fire on or charge it and like a wee gem will pop up out of the box, and then as soon as you grab that one, then the rest of the box splits open. The only time there is sort of like any interest with actually opening any boxes is you'll occasionally find like some boxes that you can't open, so you'll either need a key for them, which you'll find somewhere else in the level, or there'll be like a firework you'll see in the level which will fly out and smash the box open. That's the only time it's kind of ever really like difficult. So I completed the game with like 120%. Like yeah, you do it all 100%, and then it opens up like just sort of like this last level where I don't even think there's any enemies in it really. It's just going around collecting a whole pile of gems and stuff. It's sort of a bonus stage in a way. Like, and it was it was decent enough. Like I like Spyro's health is levels like you will die a decent amount of times, but not necessarily because like the enemies are anything difficult. It's just more as you can like jump and glide across the platforms in the distance or whatever, some of them are very tight, so you'll jump and you'll glide over and you'll maybe just miss, you'll be too low to grab the platform, and then you just obviously fall to your death, and like you could maybe do that 2 or 3 times before you just hit the right height. Like I mean, part of that's on you, but it's just frustrating when you're just that close to being able to get to the platform and you just miss it. Or other times like Spyro in this game, can't go into water, so if you touch water or any other like liquid or anything, like you'll get damaged. And the way your damage works is you've got this like dragonfly that sort of flies around with you, and he can, like, every time you get hit, the dragonfly gets like weaker, and I think there's like three different stages to it. Like whenever he's gold, he's like at his pretty best, and as you like walk around the environment, he actually collects the gems if they're nearby. Whereas if it takes the more damage he takes, like the gems have to be sort of closer in proximity. Whereas if the dragonfly's gone again, you have to like grab him yourself, which isn't that much of a big deal because you have to be close enough to the enemy for the dragonfly to collect. But it kind of gives you like 3 hits really before like you would die, and you can like regenerate that health of the dragonfly by there'll be some like random sort of animals about, like sheep or mice or something, and you just like flame them, and then a wee butterfly comes out, and then the dragonfly will eat the butterfly.
Sounds like a massacre. Spyro's going around killing everybody.
Yeah, it seems a bit like, I find that a bit odd that it's just like these nice wee animals that you kind of destroy to get to get your health back. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, you can also find like lives occasionally scattered in different parts of the level. They come in this sort of like wee purple sort of thing that you just blast open and you feel in there. Or like I sort of mentioned about the checkpoints earlier, like if you defeat enemies and stuff, you get a gem from them. Like, and the gems come in different colors, like different values attached to them. But once you've defeated that enemy and got their gem, like if you've go back to a checkpoint again, once you defeat that enemy again, I mean, you've already got the gem, so it sort of gives you a wee thing which builds up like a meter in the top right of the screen, and once you build that up, it gives you another life. The levels are never that big that even if you did lose all your lives, like it's not a huge task really going back into it. The only other really things that I can say, and maybe a sort of criticism, would be there's like I talked about those boxes earlier that you can only like maybe hit with like the firework or whatever. There's another way of getting them, and that's by like a supercharge thing, which there's some ramps in the game which you go down, and they've got like arrows on them, and you can like do a charge down that, and then you'll like kind of boost and it becomes a supercharge, and you can bust those boxes open that way. But it also means you can like fly a lot further and reach platforms away in the distance. And occasionally generally that's fine. So it can be a wee bit awkward coming off the platforms at the end, because if you get it wrong, like you're gonna fall to your death again. But there are some levels, and the way they're designed is that the super ramp will be like in one part of the level, but you'll actually need to fly off to another part of the level, so you're kind of like bouncing around parts of the level to get to the ramp that you need to get to reach that platform in the distance. But it's structured in a way that it can be so confusing to figure out where to go. Like, I kind of like the idea of it, that you need to go through all these different bits to get to where you need to go, but the structure of the level is, it feels too random where you need to jump to go. It's like, yeah, a lot of trial and error and experimentation to do that, and quite a few deaths involved.
Bad level design.
The level design, it's never particularly interesting, apart from maybe those sort of levels, but it's not designed in, like a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not an intelligent enough way to sort of portray what you need to do, really. But you will get it eventually, generally. Although there's some that are just like, I could understand if people didn't figure it out, because there's some that are so awkward. But apart from that, the only other thing is like, I kind of talked initially about the visual upgrade from the PS1 games, and it kind of runs okay on the Switch. It's not amazing. You'll maybe find a few stutters, like, but for me it kind of ran well enough. But the resolution sometimes, like playing in handheld mode, like you will see like not the pixels as such, but you do notice like a downgrade when you're playing in handheld. It never looks terrible, Aaron, but you do notice it. And all in the visuals, like the audio's it's fine enough, it's very inoffensive, like it doesn't really add or detract. But it's pretty much largely forgettable, although there's a few like cheesy lines of dialogue. Like there'll be like one time you'll rescue a dragon and there'll be a wee reference to like Parappa the Rapper or something, you know, like you gotta believe. It's like a wee cheeky wink kind of. But it's a wee bit, like I said, very geared towards kids. I don't know if I would recommend it at this point. Like I have to see what the second and third games are like, but it was decent enough. Like it was pretty much as I remembered, kinda. But what I did notice was that I don't know if it's a detriment to the actual game itself, or maybe it's a good thing that it has been upgraded so much, like visually, or whatever, but like I didn't really recognize a lot of the the levels. They just didn't really stand out to me, any kind of unique features apart from maybe the odd one, like I say, with the super ramps or whatever. But it's just okay. Just okay.
That reminds me of and it's very hard to recommend as well, as New Super Lucky's Tale on the Switch. Bland, you know, it's something missing from his platforming. It never quite connects properly, and it ends up it's just enemies are unvaried, just stuff to collect. But okay, you know.
Yeah, like I certainly didn't hate it, and like I think it took about 9 hours for me to finish it completely, 120%. Like, so it's not like a particularly long game or anything, and I didn't really mind it. It's the sort of game that you can sort of sit there, maybe have something on the TV, you know, you're watching it, you can just sort of at your leisure go and collect all these gems. But it's nothing really more than that.
Cool. Thanks, Greg. I won't be picking that one up, sorry. How about you, Sam?
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think with games like Spyro, you know, PS1 era platformers, do you think maybe it might have been the case of, you know, living through the N64 era, like golden age of platformers, we might have been a little bit spoilt for choice?
I think so.
In comparison.
Yeah, even that kind of modern New Super Lucky's Tale, it just can't hold a candle to the kind of level design and the way that the camera flows around, you know, for example, following Mario up the mountain or whatever, making sure you know where you're going and all that, and then third-party companies then, they just can't get it.
Yeah, I think games like, you know, Super Mario 64, they've stood the test of time, and I think that's probably why, as we heard the recent rumours about, there's going to be probably possible remasters of lots of Mario games for the Switch. I think, you know, it's because they stand up, and, you know, so Nintendo can just basically re-release them, and, you know, the game's still going to be good, and if the enhancements are worth it, you know, why not?
$49.99 in the eShop. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.